And slowly open the eyes. Questions?
My question is related to speaking the truth and the masks. How can I identify when really I'm speaking the truth, or maybe you are talking through a mask?
Well, it's very easy. You're either speaking the truth or you're lying. If there's a mask, you're lying. If you're speaking from your heart, there's an energy. There's an energy of truth. And you're not masking anything. You know, we're always telling people what they want to hear. And on some very simple social levels, it doesn't matter. But if you abandon yourself and not speak the truth in an important situation because you're afraid that you might hurt their feelings or they might not love you anymore, it's very clear, that energy. It's very clear. You know, if you're walking down the street and someone says, "Good morning, how are you?" you say, "Very well, thank you." It might be a lie. "No, I'm depressed, I've had a terrible day." You know, you're not going to spend 10 minutes telling someone your woes. Okay, because it's just a social interaction. But when it's an intimate interaction and you're masking, where you're not speaking your truth, you know. It's very clear. Because you feel uncomfortable. And you have to think. If it's coming from your heart, you don't think. It just comes. It has an energy behind it. And it's the most important thing. And it's the first step to freedom. I speak my truth so I no longer abandon myself in search of love. Because my fear of not being loved is more important than my fear of not loving myself. So you have to start loving yourself first and then speaking your truth. And as this happens, the masks start to fall. The ego starts to lose its control. And you need to let go of the ego because it's something very fragile. It's very small. It's not the greatness of who you are. And everyone knows the ego because we all have the same ego. The same masks, the same pretenses, the same act. That's why no one trusts anyone. Because I'm lying. I know you're lying too. You know, humans don't trust each other. And we say, "Oh, it's because you don't trust yourself." And it's exactly right. I'm not transparent. I'm not integral. I don't trust myself. Why would I trust you? People that speak the truth, people that are real, don't need to trust other people. Because there's no fear. Because they trust in themselves. And this is responsibility. And it's one of the hardest things for humans to break. The fear of being disapproved. It's one of the hardest things. And people stuff and they hold and they cultivate resentment. And some people do it for years. Some people do it for all of their relationships. All their marriage. With the children. Just this constant begging for approval. And then we wonder why we get sick, why we become resented, why we become angry and disillusioned, and we're not enjoying our lives. And it all comes from the same source, the source of abandonment. Yeah, so I think it's very clear. You know, once you know yourself intimately, you don't abandon yourself, ni automatically. It starts to hurt because it doesn't have integrity, and integrity has an energy.
Not long ago, my boyfriend, the father of my children, told me this, that the love is the most selfish thing he knows. What do you think about it?
So what I think he's trying to say, that conditional love is very selfish because we're always demanding each other and nothing's ever enough. Whereas unconditional love is exactly the opposite. It's not in any way selfish because it's self-sustaining. And obviously he's feeling demanded, like he's finding it difficult, like he's losing himself in the demands. This is what I imagine's happening. And he's resented with that. This is what I imagine he's saying. So what do I think of that? This is the question. You know, all humans have to learn to love themselves. Because it's like we have this very limited source. And when someone takes something and we don't feel it's being replenished, we feel empty. It's like I give, and I'm not receiving anything. And I'm feeling empty. But when I become the source of love, I'm like an unlimited spring. It just keeps coming and coming and coming and coming. And it's eternal. And that's unconditional love. And it comes from within us. It comes from within. And we just keep giving. But we give without noticing. Why? Because we don't need anything else. We're not lacking anything. But conditional love, yes, it is selfish. Some people give. Some people take. No one's receiving. And everyone's feeling abandoned. So I imagine he's talking about that.
More the question, I want to ask you for a tip. When I'm with an energy of lack, I find myself with an energy of lack. How can I change to a more abundant energy?
You have to focus on feeling abundant internally. And the only way to do that is to expand your consciousness. Because when you're full of love, you live in the present moment. And the present moment is always abundant. When you're focused on praise and gratitude, it's abundant. It's perfect. It's the mind that takes us into those areas where we don't feel there's enough. There's lack. Because we're projecting into the future. Or we're regretting the past, feeling like a victim. We're not living in praise of this moment. Because there's never lack. Ever. There's always abundance. But we can't see it. But when we're here and we're focused on love, we see the perfection. So remember that. It's always a projection. It's not a reality. It's always the action of the ego. I am in lack. There's never enough time, enough love, enough resources, enough opportunities. You know, it's typical victim consciousness. Actually, if you read Love Has Wings, you'll see. It's in the
Since I was a child, I thought I was responsible, very responsible, because I used to have good notes, and always I was saying it was a quality of mine to be responsible with the things on the outside.
To be a good girl. Yay.
But in reality now, I can see that I was not responsible of my life. Can you talk a little bit more about this? How to hold responsibility truly and create the life that I want?
Okay, that's a good question. There's always two sides. And both sides are to get attention, to get love. There's the good girl and the bad girl. And they both get love. One gets love because it's always in trouble. It's always doing something wrong. Everyone's on top of her, trying to change her. In fact, the bad girl gets more attention. And the good girl, she's the support of the family. I can always rely on her. But both are abandoning themselves. Why? Because all their attention's external, looking for approval or looking for disapproval, but looking to receive that. And yes, good girls always abandon themselves. And then they grow up resented because it's exhausting. It's exhausting doing everything to please other people. And lots of women do that. They do it in their family, then they do it with the husband, then they do it with the children, then the children leave, and they're like, oh, I forgot to have a life. I was so busy looking after everyone else. And it's good you can see that. Because true responsibility is not being a good girl. True responsibility is being true to your own heart, following your truth, your path, your desires, not abandoning yourself. That's not responsibility, because that behavior always finishes as a victim. Always. I give you everything and it's still not enough. Sound familiar? Yeah. I gave you my youth and now you've gone off with the secretary. I gave you children. They ruined my body. And it's good you catch it now. And you stop. But that's not responsibility. Not at all. But don't worry, you can still be a bad girl. Yeah, the time's right.
During these days being here, I was able to see that during all my life till now, that I'm becoming aware of that, I tried like to put the things that were hurting me in different corners, not to hurt me. And now I'm learning to be real and to be able to let go of them. But how to know till what point really I'm being 100% real? Until what point I continue with the same pattern of I show a little bit, but not, I just let go of the point of the iceberg, but not the whole thing.
So you begin at the beginning. Okay, and you're starting to change now. But it's very easy to catch because you have an excuse. There's always an excuse for someone's behavior. It's always an excuse for why you did something. And you can always find that excuse to justify that you're abandoning yourself. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but people do things to you and you understand. It's not their fault. They had a bad childhood. You know, his mother was a drunk. The father was never home. It's not his fault. He's doing his best. But it's constant, no? It's all this enlightenment externally. So that tells you that you're adapting. You're saving. See, I got you, huh? I see you very clearly. Yeah. You can't trick me with the tattoos. I know how you are. And you do it to yourself too. And you've got to stop. Transparency, truth, clarity starts with self. And that's the beauty of the facets. Because until you go in, you don't even know you do it. In fact, that behavior, we think that we're almost spiritually superior, no? Because I'm a good person. I'm compassionate. I'm forgiving. I abandon myself completely. I've got no love for me, no patience. I'm exigente. Nothing's ever good enough. Does it sound familiar? Sounds very familiar. Okay? So now you catch it. Now you can change it.
When we are moving a lot of stress, especially anguish and sadness, how can we see when we are suffering? Which is the difference in between suffering and moving stress?
Well, in the beginning, it's all the same. You know, there's extreme emotion. The thing that makes you suffer is the judgment. Because crying doesn't make you suffer. Being angry doesn't make you suffer. Nothing makes you suffer. But your thoughts make you suffer. Because you attach a thought to it. Oh, I'm so sad. Oh, I've never felt so bad. Oh, this is the worst. Oh, I can't go on. This is too much. I'm not going to survive. I thought this system was meant to help me, but it's not helping me. I've never felt worse, and I'm sick of going up and down the stairs and in my perfection. That's suffering. And all you're doing is crying. But the head makes it into this fiesta, the sufrimiento. And you have to catch that. And it's the judgment. We have judgments about emotions. And no one walks around permanently happy. Humans have emotions. That's why they're emotions. That's why they're human. And it's the spice of life. It connects us with everything, with our humanity. It opens our hearts. It gives us empathy and compassion. We have to have emotion. You know, these people that are walking around disconnected from life. They're not in high levels of consciousness. They're just in high levels of negation. Most humans do not have a clue what's happening. Especially gringos, huh? Don't feel anything. Keep going. No, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. And then they have a heart attack and they go, oop, not so okay. Because there's only so much the body can hold. So it's very important to connect with everything, but not to make it into a big drama. Just look at it as a healing process. And then you'll find you can be in joy no matter what emotion happens. You can be crying and be anchored in joy. You can be angry and be anchored in joy. And you don't know what I'm talking about. But that's what it is to witness. You start to witness the human experience from this place of permanent consciousness. Yeah, but it's a process to get to that point. It's a process. So don't suffer the beginning. I was very dramatic when I started too, because for all my life I felt nothing. Nothing. I just went beyond, save the world. But when I did start to move, it was unbelievable the amount of stress I had stuffed in my body. Unbelievable.
I saw how I have a stronger feeling of what's right, that it comes from the heart. And it's like a feeling of loving myself and being caring of me beyond everything. And I want to know if this is a step to let go duality behind, because I see that during the day. Also, I have moments where I see this is madness. Why did I come to this place where everybody is doing pataleta, no? We look like crazies. And in another moments, I find myself, this is the best decision I took in my life. And sometimes I think I'm a terrible singer, and other times I feel I'm the best one of the world. And so I'm in between each of them. And I want to know if this is the step you do to let go of duality, if it's possible to let go of duality, and if that's the stage of enlightenment, the no-duality.
Oh my God. Okay. Firstly, when we're in our heads, we live in pure duality, no? We experience good, bad, right, wrong, black, white, light, dark, blah, 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 blah. And all of these experiences have titles. Good experience, bad experience, that. And we separate everything in accordance with what we believe. As we start to cultivate and unify, we're unifying with our divinity. Unity is oneness. And that's of the heart. Comes from omniscience, comes from consciousness, comes from truth, comes from being in the silence, in this place. So you're not following your head everywhere. Now, in order to get to this space, You have to eradicate or remove all of those grooves, all those belief systems, all of that stress, all of that noise. You have to take its power away. It doesn't mean it disappears, but you disactivate it. So the judgment leaves. All duality comes from judgment, not just is. Witnessing, watching the human experience from a place of love. So as we move our stress and we start to grow, we start to create very quickly external experiences that provoke our circles. Now, when the circle's provoked, we move the stress, and it's like we disconnect the electricity. And bit by bit, all the principal stresses, or the root stresses, they start to leave completely. And you find this space of perfection. So, what does perfection feel like? It's unity within the duality. What is the difference? The judgment. It doesn't exist anymore. It sees the perfection, firstly within itself, and then externally. But it's totally experiential. You can read it till you're purple. You can read it in Sanskrit. You can read it in Hindi. You can read Buddhism. You can read the Vedantas. You can read everything. The Upanishads. You can read the Bible. You can read anything. But until it's your experience, it doesn't exist. So how does it become your experience? By moving. You have to move everything. And when you become empty, which happens very quickly, you start to vibrate in that energy. Praise, love, gratitude, silence. But it's a feeling. You become the facets. They become your experience. Oh, everything is perfect. Oh, that love, that energy is in everything. Oh, I am that. There's nothing other than that. We're all that. And everything's a mirror. And ultimately, it's a mirror of perfection. Yeah. That was a long answer, no? I'm finishing. Gracias.
Come visit our webpage for books, movies, and our wonderful retreat centers. Isha's simple yet powerful system is transforming lives around the world.